Greetings, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of the Sickcast, aka the Siblings and Cardboard podcast. I'm your host, Donnie, joined by my buddies slash co-hosts, Noah, Thomas, and this week, our special guest, Mr. Matt DeMarco, aka Flake.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Now, whether you're a veteran card gamer or a first-timer just testing the waters, we are all siblings in cardboard. Guys, how have things been since the last time we talked?
Busy. I grinded a ton of games for ProQuest season. I had a decent record in Classic Constructed, but I kind of punted when I had a really good potential deck in Draft.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's Draft. It's bright lights.
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot in Flesh and Blood this week. There's a lot of things that are kind of piling up on me in the home life. I did manage to get to a PQ over the weekend and ran Katsu, ran my boy, and got absolutely dumpstered in every single round. Like, it wasn't even funny. The judge was standing over my shoulder and watching my games for the first two rounds. I was up against an Azalea in round one and then a Dash IE in round two. And I just got high rolled in both games. Like, it was never even close. I think I played a total of maybe 7 cards between both games. It was rough. I mean, I don't know what you say. Sometimes you just get rolled like that. Then round 3, I got beat up by our buddy Chris, who plays Vincent, and I have a hard time into that Vincent. It is what it is. I mean, I got the bye in round 4. So I walked away with some XP, but not a good day. Not a good day for my ninja.
I lost my first round of top 8 to Noah. He beat me.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
No way. And then I punted. And
then you punted.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Had guaranteed lethal on Alexi, right? So you're actually going to be able to take out Alexi. And then...
It was Sebastian, too, from the card guys. Who I played previously and absolutely... I think it was a 4-turn game. To the point where it was like 33-2 or something. I mean, it was brutal. I felt so bad after the game because like Dorinthia has a way of doing that, and it wasn't a very interactive matchup. And then the rematch was wonderful, and then I just disrespected a bolt and shot Rain Razors. I was at 7, he threw it for 5, and I said, no, that's fine. It's not 7. All I had to do is throw any one of the 2 blues and then throw a dominate, and he could not live. So it was my fault. I punted. I should have been in the finals. What do you do?
So,
oh well.
Like, did you play any Flesh and Blood this week?
This week, I played a little bit on Talishar, but this past weekend, I was more in my Pokemon mindset. There was like the regionals that were happening in Toronto, of which I had no freaking idea how absolutely huge this thing is. The tournament was like 2,000 people. I was like, yeah,
Holy cow.
my first opponent flew in from Germany. My other opponent was from the States. There's another opponent I played against who was from like China. It was unreal. Like, it was
okay.
Yeah, it was huge. It was a pretty big deal. Not on purpose. Like, I drew the first 2 games. I lost 2, and I drew 3. I played 5 rounds. I drew 3 rounds and lost 2. I could have won one. The game just went to time, and I mean, that was it. So to answer the original question, yes, I did play some Flesh and Blood. I am sort of gearing up for my own small little amount of PQ that I can play this coming weekend. So played a little bit of Bravo on Talishar, and that's about it.
Was it the TCG Pokemon or was it VGC? Like the
TCG.
TCG.
Yeah.
How does that feel? I haven't played that in
man. I will say this. If you are a fan of Kano, you will absolutely freaking love playing Pokemon. Like, if you're basically, just to put this in perspective, if you're not drawing at least 5 cards a turn, you are way behind. It is the most tutor friendly, ultra powered, every turn is massive, kind of like snowbally thing. Plus, not to mention, it's a game where you can't play on your opponent's turn. There's no response card. There's almost zero decision making. So you're just kind of like watching. You're a passenger, like half of the match. And then when the turn gets passed back to you, it's like, okay, I have to do what they're doing. I have to match that. And if you're not familiar with your deck, if you're not familiar with, what their decks are and where they're, you might think that the biggest, baddest thing that they have on the board is the most important, but no, it's the little stupid doofus that looks like a pumpkin pie with a face on it. That's the thing you need to kill.
I saw that. I saw that tweet.
Oh, like I lost a game because I didn't know what that card did. And what's funny about it is that stupid panic mask or whatever, I had no clue what it did. And when I asked what it did, the way that it was worded to me was kind of shady. Like I didn't get all the information. And then when I tried to do something and they're like, well, you can't because of this, I said, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And then they're like, well, you already declared your thing, your turn's over. So I kind of got like sharked a little bit in the loser bracket, which was kind of funny. Wow. But I was like, all right, listen, I'm like, it's on me. I completely took it. I'm like, it's no big deal. And then at the end of it, there was like a game that I was going to win, and I ended up just giving it, like I just conceded at the end because I didn't care. And the dude was clearly kind of upset that, doofus face McGee over here was beating him, and it was I showed up to the table. I said, you are my first ever Pokemon opponent. And they're like, oh my God. Yeah. And that was it. Like everybody I've ever played in paper were those people at that tournament. Everything else was like done online. Right. Yeah, it was good experience. I was trying a new card game at a high level. It was fun. It was cool. Is
it something you plan on doing again?
Pokemon, probably not. I mean, I would probably do something if it rolled around, but I don't want to invest back into finding a new deck and learning a new meta. Mm-hmm. It's definitely something I'll do with other card games. For example, One Piece definitely has my attention. I think that game's great.
It is really fun.
It's a very fun game.
It's really good, and I actually put a lot of time in practicing and learning that game. I got like my One Piece cards are right here and stuff like that. So I have a competitive deck for pretty much every card game that interests me. So if ever there's something happening, I can just pick up and go, and that's cool.
Yeah, like One Piece is like every deck is Dromai, kind of. It's a progressive board state game. It's a lot of fun.
It's honestly, if I were to say, it's kind of like Pokemon, where you have a limited bench of units that you can have on the board, but they could all attack. Mm-hmm. Rather than just having one active one, and it kind of goes back and forth. So, but in terms of strategy and sequencing and faking out your opponent and bluffing, and doing intricate kind of little +1 math equations in your head about stuff, it is very, very rewarding. But it's definitely no Pokemon.
I have not played the Pokemon TCG since I was probably 12.
Yeah, I was putting the cards in my back pocket the last time I played Pokemon.
Yeah, same here. They had a rubber band around them.
Basically, everything that you thought was good back then is like the most pathetic garbage ever. Like, remember Charizard? It's like, oh, Charizard does like 120 damage or something. Like that is basically what everything does at the base minimum. If your dude doesn't do at least 220 plus damage, then you might as well just give up. Like that's the baseline, is like 200 damage is the baseline for basic Pokemon. It's unreal.
Some of the trainers in that first set that were broken, like Professor Oak.
Oh, that's still legal. I played 4 of them. Yes, it is still broken. It is basically discard your hand, draw 7. So you play everything. You have no cards in hand, then you draw 7. Like, it's the stupidest thing.
It's Wheel of Fortune in Pokemon.
It is. That's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. If you're a Kano player, pick up Pokemon. You will excel and enjoy yourself.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
So we've got another segment we like to do near the beginning. Noah was really excited about some card. He wouldn't tell us. He was trying to make us bet $1. But this is our market minute.
There's no bet. I was going to give you $1.
Oh, give us $1. Oh, so it's like
it's free.
Okay, my guess was still Mask of Momentum.
No.
A card that's like
skyrocketing.
So I'll put it this way. It's an older card. It's a card that's been around. It's been a staple for a long time. And I just have no idea. Like, I have an idea where the price spike is coming from 2 areas, but it's shocked me. I just saw it on the bestsellers on TCG Player, and I was like, well, of course that's a bestseller. And then I clicked on it. I was like, when did it go up to that price? And then I looked at it again, and it jumped again. It jumped again in the amount of time. Like, I looked at it earlier today, and I looked at it now, and it jumped again.
Majestic?
I'm gonna guess Lightning Strike. I'm gonna guess E-Strike.
No.
Is it a Welcome to Wraith card?
No, but it might be from the earlier sets.
That's okay. Hold on.
I'm trying to give it away at this
Is
point.
it Art of War?
But Articor's always kind of been up there. Is it a class related card? It's not a generic.
It is a generic.
It's a generic.
Oh, there's too many options.
Tome?
No. We'll start with it because I've got 2 cards that I think are actually trending quite upwards, and there's a couple that I think you guys should put on the radar. It is Command and Conquer.
That was my other guess.
So just
Going up, but
so
it's always
obvious.
been up. That's weird. Where is it?
Command and Conquer from the Arcane Rising, you could get for $75-$80. It is $95 now. On TCG Player. That is TCG low. And I speculate 2 things. One, Arcane Rising is obviously out of print, unlimited. I think it's going to get harder and harder to find it as it goes. You can get it in the history pack. The history pack one has been slightly going up. 2, Dromai it just has way more shares right now. Lexi goes, you dodge one of the frailty heroes, so you throw your attack actions back in. You throw your poppers back in. I don't know why, but that's almost a $20 jump in like the last 2 weeks.
Maybe heavy hitters, knowing that's a Brute Guardian Warrior. There's going to be more A reacts or stuff or more D reacts, and having an attack that can't be defense reacted to.
People just picking up their playsets. I mean, CNC is a staple.
It's a card like, I mean,
Worlds.
The history pack
Also
one, it's only at 74, 75. We haven't really saw that jump anywhere, but I just think through the combination of the Arcane Rising being completely like a harder to find set. I mean, even in Unlimited, it's not like it's coming back out of print, but 95 just feels really high for Arcane Rising CNC.
What's your next one?
No, that's what I paid for mine. That's what I paid for mine originally when I got them, was right around $90 each. So that price doesn't shock me like that.
It did for me, but Warmonger's Diplomacy is the next one. I don't think it should be surprising. Azalea has way more shares now. The card kind of set back for a little bit at the lower 30 end mark, and now we're seeing it up towards 50 again.
Makes sense.
Rainbow foils are there's a rainbow foil that's cheaper than a non-foil right now on TCG Player. I don't know why, but there is. So if you want a rainbow foil, go have one.
Yeah, tournaments, non-foils are important for tournaments.
Really?
Yeah, if you're worried about it, that's like the easiest
Deck
way
checking, man.
to get trouble is a deck check, and the Krangle.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, if you want a playset, you gotta be uniform. Otherwise, you might get in trouble. Well, I mean, it's a risk that you take, but if you just take the regular one, you're pretty clean.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Oh, that's interesting. But yeah, Warmonger's Diplomacy. Obviously, we're getting into PQ season, scrimmage season, but I just think Azalea is going to eat up more stocks, and I think that Warmonger's is just going to come back into the scene again to kind of slow that down. And then we're going to talk about just 3 cards that are trending upwards, and it might just be because of the meta, or it might be people trying to find some things out. But Twin Drive has actually gone up a couple of dollars. It did dip down to like a lower 15 end, and it's brought its way back up to the $21 mark. I think it's actually going to go up a little bit. I think it's a great card. I think Dash.io will actually have a place. She's very glass cannon. I think people will be able to find us a nice sort of balance to play in a hyper aggressive meta.
It's the best mech card in the set.
Yeah. I agree.
But I don't think it's
totally
just Dash.io that is taking it. I think it's actually Dash Inventor Extraordinaire that is putting that card to good use.
I think Max runs it too.
Yeah, but Dash IE is going to be the meta-defining hero for a little while, along with Dromai. She's going to be... my take is I think Dash IE is going to be one of the top 3 decks. So people are gearing up for that.
I think she's going to be very good. Along with the mech thing, adaptive plating is slightly on its way up a little bit. I mean, we're talking, dollars here and there, but I actually see that card trending upwards as time goes on. I think people haven't really realized how good that card is.
It's really good.
But it's a free 3 block. I mean, it's practically a free 3 block, and it's big. I mean, having 3 block on demand is huge. Let's be real. And then the last one is already dead, which I think assassin stocks will go up a little bit as well.
Not happy to hear that, because I haven't got my playset of those yet.
And that's, we're talking again from like $15 to $20, kind of a spike over the last week. I mean, it I just look at subtle changes like that, and I try and watch things and see why they're going up or what. But these are also some of the top sellers too. I mean, they're being bought at very high rates, and so it could just be driving the price up because people want to get play sets. People aren't sure what they want to play for Worlds. People might be buying up a whole bunch of stuff to play test. There's a bunch of reasons that some of these cards could be going up. But that's what I got. I mean, I could have went on and on and on. I think there's some good Bravo cards that are going up too.
Yeah, we got a huge main topic, so we're trying to speed through the normal business.
Speaking of Bravo, the most recent thing that kind of got spoiled is 3 of the new cards from Heavy Hitters. So, I know someone here is a Guardian player. Are you excited for the new set?
Well, I'm excited mainly because it's like it's another 3 hero or 3 class set, which I think is the right balance, which is good, especially with the dual class cards. I'll be completely honest, I haven't hid this fact from anyone. Bright Lights interested me. A big fat maybe is like 1 on 10, and there's nothing like it. I think between Dusk Till Dawn and Bright Lights, I have purchased exactly 0 Flesh and Blood. Like everything I've acquired by just drafting the stuff, playing in events, or I just kind of like whenever I work an event, I just ask the event person, whether it's min-max or whatever, I just ask for a playset of the commons and rares as part of my compensation, just so that I have the actual set. It's like $30, right?
That's a sweet hookup.
Nice.
Yeah, it's but again, like at the end of the day, I kind of miss the fact that I used to, open boxes and cases and whatever. But yeah, I'm super excited because I thought it was going to be Brute and Warrior, and I thought there would be an additional class. I kind of suspected it would have been Ninja, but I'm totally okay with it not being Ninja. Trust me, as a Guardian main, like I'm over the moon, dude. Like this is just give me more blue cards that hit for 6, that block for 3, and cost 3 or more. That's it. That's all I want. Like I don't even attack with them. Like it's just pitch fodder. Just give me stuff to pay for hammers. That's it.
What are the odds you think we see a Brute Blue 6? That's a hybrid card.
Oh man.
Well,
I hope so. You just got me so excited.
I mean, I think it's a better possibility with it being a hybrid card, hybrid Brute / Guardian. What are your thoughts? Do you think that's actually within the realm of possibility, or did James White put a nail in that coffin back in Baltimore?
Well,
it ain't happening.
It ain't happening.
I don't know if you can
it's so
give them
weird. It's so weird how it kind of limits their design space a little bit, right? Because they can't do a Brute Guardian attack that comes in at blue 6 because you're giving like that Berserk card, another card to hit that's in the blue range. You're making like Bloodrush Bellow already arguably one of the highest power cards in the game, even higher power. What about Talk a Big Game?
Consistency is scary.
The new blue card that was spoiled. This one reads, choose a number. The next time you deal that much or more damage to a hero this turn, create that many might tokens. Go again. And if people recall, I think might was added with the Round the Table set. And that's at the beginning of your turn, break the token, and you get +1 to your next attack. I'm not sure this is a Bravo card, right? It doesn't deal damage. It doesn't. I think you would pitch it, and by the time you're able to play it, you're not throwing huge tax anymore.
How much does it cost?
It's 0. It's a 0 cost blue. It's a block 3.
0 cost blue.
It is a block 3, yeah.
I mean, I think you play it. Maybe like there's an opportunity, but we were talking about this before you came in, and my whole thing was you want to use your blues as Bravos, so it's almost like in Bolden Blade for Dory. Do you know what I mean? Like if I throw that blue out, that like I could have paid for an overpower, and I chose to look at your arsenal instead. And so yeah, if I got it right, well, I won. If I didn't get it right, I just blew my blue, and I can't overpower you. So it feels really bad. I mean, it just Bravo has 3 blues in his hand. Does he really want to give one up to just like say I'm going to deal X damage? I don't know. It feels rough to use unless it's with some weird Terra Sunder thing like second cycle kind of. You've got nothing left, and I'm just trying to come in for some extra damage.
I play a lot of Brute, and I'm trying to think of like a use case where you could actually pull it off. It does say the next time you deal damage, so you can do it with a weapon. So you can kind of invest into a big weapon swing. So with a Brute, you could theoretically like barrage and beat down 2 or 3 times and then talk a big game name a really high number and smack someone in the face.
Wait, what does the card say exactly? Like, what is the word for word text?
Choose a number. The next time you deal that much or more yellow arrow damage to a hero.
Or more.
Or more.
Or more.
This turn, create that many might tokens. So if you say 8 and you hit someone for 8 or more, you make 8 might tokens.
Well, you're not going to do that. But this is okay. So now it's that much or more, and it's the next time. It's not the next attack. So this is a little bit better than I initially suspected. This is how you open your Zealous Belting turn, your Go Again turn, or whatever. And I think, honestly, you pick a modest number, like 3, and you go in with like a Zealous Belting, or you say 2 even. You say you go in with like a Zealous Belting, they can block 3, and then take 2, and then they're screwed. And then because they know that the follow-up's going to be a hammer or something. So, like it's X or more on the next attack that turn. So that actually, the problem is that with this card is the opportunity for it and the payoff is pretty garbage, because I would much rather, like, here's the thing, like, is that better than like a come to fight that adds like 3 to your attack?
Exactly.
Like it's not. It absolutely is not, because you're like, okay, I'm playing a card that might give me an opportunity to turn it into a come to fight later. Like, who cares? Like, that's the thing. So I am better than I thought. So it's easily a 2 on 10.
The other card that's for Guardian that was spoiled just leaves me with a bunch of questions. This one's Double Down. It's a 2-cost non-attack action that says you may destroy a gold you control rather than pay Double Down's resource cost. The next attack that wagers this turn gets +3 and overpower. If a hero would create 1 or more tokens from a wager this turn, instead they create that many +1 of each of those tokens. Go again.
I don't know what wager does, though.
We don't have enough information. So here's my thing. We got a bunch of fight pit kind of things going on, right? Like gladiator type styles. So people in arenas. This is my initial thought, especially as a warrior player. We generate copper, right, on Dorinthia. What am I going to use with that copper? I can't do anything with. So if you give me a way to wager and use that copper for some kind of a gain, now maybe we're talking. So I don't know. I'm just speculating that there's going to be some use in that sense of wagering and paying. Like, I don't know. That's my speculation. Because otherwise, I've got 6 copper tokens sometimes on Dorinthia, and unless there's a Kylori over there, what am I doing with them? I'm not Kasai. And how do you fix Dorinthia, right? Like, I don't know. I'm thinking.
I think Dorinthia's fine.
No. She needs to be fixed.
The last spoiled card, I think the art is great on this last spoiled card. Runner. It's a 2-cost 6, 3 block. When this attacks, if it has Go Again, create an agility token. It seems difficult to pull off, but agility says at the start of your turn, destroy this, and your next attack this turn gains Go Again. I can see some interesting ways to give brutes the ability to throw more than 1 attack per turn.
Scabs.
Well, Scabs gives you an action point, so you got to give this card Go Again somehow. So you have to get a Quicken token or another agility token. It allows you to keep going. I think that's the theme of it.
That's the wager, though. I'm telling you, that's the wager we don't have yet. Because it even says once you wager, create that many more tokens. So what if you're wager and you win the wager and it gives you an agility or a might token or something? And like that's what you're creating. I mean, like the first thing I thought of was if they give me a way to generate an agility token on Dory with wagering or with copper or whatever, right? Then of course I want to play that. I just throw that. That's a 2 for 6 that I can start with before Dawnblade. If it hits, I create an agility token, then I pay the extra 1 resource to swing, and that has to go again already. That's
the agility token is not a quicken token. To note that it would give you Go Again on the next turn. So
okay.
As Flake pointed out, it's there's some problems with the power level here because you're kind of investing a lot to try to get more the next turn, and you might have to block or get blown out the next turn anyway.
It kind of sounds like a win more card. I mean, if you're already in a good tempo position, you continue to be in a good tempo position, but if you're not, it's kind of hard to do. So, I don't know about that.
I'm excited though, because I actually like the Bright Light set. I bought myself a case, but I'm a mechanologist simp. But I'm also like a brute simp. I love Leviah. Rhinar was kind of the first hero that kind of got me into Flesh and Blood. So I'm excited for the next set too.
Okay.
Outsiders was great. So going back to the tri-hero setup, it's a good idea.
Yeah. How many heroes do you think we'll see in the limited pool? Do you think we're only gonna see 3, 1 from each class, or are we gonna have a total of 6 like we did in Outsiders?
I think it's 3. I think that they're like actively sort of throttling back on how many they pump out. I think that 3 per set is what their marching orders are going forward. I could be wrong. Again, I don't have any inside information on that, but from what I understand and what I inferred from kind of a lot of the discussions and such, is that, especially keep in mind that they're ditching supplemental sets, right? They're not doing those for a while. So they need to have like, it's easier to design 9 heroes a year than it is to design 12 heroes a year, right? So they have to at least kind of pace themselves when it comes to new heroes, because I don't know how many they have in their minds, but between James and Brian, like, designing 12 unique heroes and everything to push them together, I mean, who knows?
When you say 3 heroes, you're saying there's going to be 3 new ones in this set?
I would imagine so.
At least in the young flavor, right? To go with the limited format. Kind of like Outsiders did with Arachne Solitary Confinement.
Right. Or are you saying that, like, you think that in heavy hitters we're going to get a reskin of, like, Rhinar, Dorinthia, and Bravo?
Yeah, I'm thinking there's going to be, I don't know if necessarily those exactly, but I think we'll have something, maybe a Kasai, right? Because copper and wagering. I think there'll be... I think there'll be 6 heroes, kind of like Outsiders, since Outsiders was very popular. A lot of people held that in very high regard.
I don't know. Didn't mean to get off track. Let's keep moving so we can get to the main.
So just a short coverage of, like, the competitive scene. We had some callings and some battle hardens. The calling, it was a calling St. Louis, right? Or Battle Harden St. Louis?
Just a Battle Harden. No, we didn't have any callings this past weekend. That was Dallas the weekend before. Yeah. But yeah, this past weekend was several Battle Hardens. The only one that I could actually find any results on was the Battle Harden PTI in St. Louis that Lucas Oswald won back-to-back on, day to day.
Impressive.
I mean,
so
kid's
impressive.
Amazing. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Wizard. In more ways than one, because he plays Icelander too. But no, he was playing Lexi. I'm just saying, he's an exceptional player. An exceptional player.
And then we have calling Melbourne this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend coming up after recording.
So people praying for ice to be gone for Worlds. This is Icelander's last chance.
Yeah, we need everybody over in Australia, everybody around the Melbourne area, pick up your ice cards, take Icelander to Melbourne so we can get her out of here. I am calling you out. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. We need no more ice in the format, please.
What's your feelings about ice? Like,
I think that it was a good idea. That the problem is that when it hit the scene, I mean, it was post Monarch Everfest when it kind of so fully got fleshed out, and everybody saw it with Starvo and Icehammer, and that was kind of annoying. But then you really get it with Icelander. Obviously, anytime that there's a hero that, I mean, this is just a standard reaction to any type of control deck, any type of deck that doesn't allow you to cleanly play out your game plan. People are going to hate it. It's much like playing against any type of mill deck or anything else. Anything that disrupts your, if you play Magic and you play against blue, you know exactly how that feels when you're like, I can't wait to drop this on curve, and then they value you with a cheap spell that crushes all your hopes and dreams. And that's kind of how Ice felt. Now in Flesh and Blood, it's different because you can kind of work your way through it, but that's the tough reality. And like, I understand the sentiment and the vitriol towards ice heroes, but at the same time, a lot of players just don't care enough to practice to beat it, and they don't want to put the work into beating it. So a lot of it is just noise, and that's it. Like, if you think that this is unique to Flesh and Blood, you have no freaking idea about a dozen other card games out there that do it twice as hard and twice as filthy.
You want control. Like, you want control to exist somewhere in your card game, or it'll get too fast.
Yeah. You don't need that many aggro. I mean, like, I actually think Icelander can't be that oppressive because she hasn't LL'd yet. Like, and let's just be real. If she was that oppressive, would she have more points? I mean, I'm just She's a very skill intensive deck too, and I think a lot of people take away that, oh, you just throw out your no. Icelander, I've said this so many times, Icelander only acts when she has to, when she really needs to. If you're just throwing those stuff out willy-nilly, you're not playing Icelander right. You're not actually disrupting properly. It is not coronet peak every turn for fun. That's just not how you do it. It's literally a game plan. It's a flow. And I think the matchup's totally fine. I think it's completely winnable. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's a tax.
It's fun.
The tough part about it also is the fact that a lot of the players that are going to be upset about it, that go to tournaments and lose to Icelander, it's because the players who are bringing Icelander to a tournament are well versed in it, and
Yep.
It's not like you're going to an armory and like I've gone to low stakes armories and beaten the piss out of Icelanders because they net decked Michael Hamilton ages ago, and they're like, this is the deck that won Worlds, so I'm going to play it. But they played it wrong, and you exploit that. The real heroes of that hero, like Michael Hamilton, Ray Adams, Majin Bey, these people just rock that hero, know it inside out, and can win the matchups that they're not supposed to win because that's all they do. So part of what they're angry at is not necessarily the fact that Icelander beat them. It's like, no, a really damn good player on a very skill intensive hero beats you. And that's the way it goes. And the crappy part about it, it's not like getting rickrolled by Starvo where you're done in 3 turns. This takes a while. It's a slow burn, so it's even more painful.
It's a slow burn, but it's inevitable. When it starts to line up and you hit that like 9 life and they still have Storm Striders, you're just like, there's literally nothing I can do. I am dead.
Yep.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to our question segment. I hope you're ready.
Oh, I'm ready, baby.
You wanna bang one off, Donnie, to start us out?
Sure. We'll start with the very first one that I put on the list, because I did prepare a short list of questions that we wanted to kind of go over and get Flake's opinion on, see what a veteran of the content creation space would have to say. I mean, these are specifically tailored for him, but, questions that a lot of other new creators might want to know, The first question is, you're here today with us for our 10th episode of the Siblings in Cardboard, which is, a relatively modest milestone in content creation. 10 weeks out of 10 since we started, so we're not doing so bad. But you recently celebrated hitting your 100th episode. Congratulations on that, by the way. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
If you could communicate with the Flake of ISP 10, or those earliest streamer days when you first started with content creation, what would you tell yourself now from the perspective where you're at?
First of all, I just want to mention that 10 episodes is a big milestone, and you shouldn't sell yourself short on that, because that's not easy to do, especially when you're starting out, and it's very intimidating. So the fact that you guys are still gung-ho and still going at it, that's huge, and I want to make sure that you guys understand that's a big deal. So congratulations to you guys as well.
Thank you.
10 is a step towards 100, which for me is a step towards 1,000 and things like that. So that's kind of how you have to look at it, and so good on you guys. What would I tell myself for episode 10? It's tough because it's hard to go back and tell myself to change something, because I'm very happy where I am right now, and I wouldn't want to deviate from that trajectory. One thing I will say is, when I started streaming, when I started this podcast, there was a lot of people who told me to quit. There's a lot of people, including myself, who told me to quit, and I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. So, and when I say that there are people who told me to quit, like, I'm talking about instant speed, like episode 6, 7, 8, they're like, this should probably be your last one. It's not working out. And I basically said, I'm doing it with or without, your help or support, but it's good to know. There was a lot of voices in my ear that told me I should just pack it in, that it wasn't for me. So the other thing about it is that don't let people, downplay your passion. Your passion should be the furnace that you're shoveling coal into, and that's what I leaned on, and that's what I continue to lean on. And like, the way I look at it is, I mean, my metrics and numbers that so many people feel a slave to, that's not at all what drives me. I don't care about how many clicks and views. I care the fact that I'm doing something I love. I'm talking to people that I want to talk to, and people take enjoyment from that. And the fact that I'm doing it not at anyone else's expense, I think is something that I'm proud of. So that's kind of where I'd go back and say, hey, like, just you have a plan, stick to it. Hard work pays off.
Just keep going.
Yes.
That's it. Just keep going.
That is a great answer, by the way. I think a lot of people really need to hear things like that. I mean, people are usually quick to shoot themselves. I mean, you're your own worst critic usually. Yeah. Uncertainty, all sorts of things that keep you from doing things, or other people's approval, or whatever. You know, you become a prisoner to things like that. And I think at the end of the day, and I mean, this goes for everything in life, is you have to have fun. Yeah, first, and if you're having fun doing it, that's all that matters. You're not hurting, like you said, like that is all that matters, is having a good time.
The tough part about it is that, like, again, given the fact that this business is something that I wanted to do as a full-time gig, and that I'm lucky enough to say that I have earned that and I've put the work in, and it's kind of come back to me in that way. It's the fact that a lot of it is, especially if you have, you know, depression issues, anxiety, if you're very susceptible to those kinds of outside influences, getting into this game is dangerous, because after every stream, after every video, you get like a report card, like emailed to you. This is how many people viewed your stuff, clicked on it. This is how good you are. It's such a, it quantifies a qualitative thing. You know, it gives you a numeric value to your efforts, which can be exceptionally dangerous for your mindset, for your motivation. So the first thing I did was I ignored all that. Like, that was it. I was like, I don't want to know how many people are in my stream when I'm streaming, and I don't want to know how many people are viewing my stuff. I'm going to just go on it, and I'm going to judge based on the amount of people who are receptive to it, who talk to me about it. And then I'll start worrying about that kind of stuff when, you know, you want to turn it into a business, when you have to attract sponsors and you have to sort of start playing that game, which for me was so foreign. But again, like you said, if the foundation you're building on isn't absolute unfiltered passion for the content that you're making, then like, I would never tell anybody to quit, but you have to evaluate what you're doing it for. If you're doing it to get famous and get clicks, the number one thing you can do is create a smear campaign and start shit talking absolutely anybody of value, and you'll get clicks. They're cheap and they're short lived. But that's why when I'm talking about going back to episode 10 and talking to myself, it's keep it, you know, on the rails. And I've seen a lot of super popular people that I have been associated with that I didn't agree with how they approach things rise and crash and burn in a heartbeat, because it was a non-sustainable thing. That they were there for the vanity, they were there for the clicks, the views, and the fame, and they got it because they took a greasy way. But after that, when all that smoke clears, there's nothing there. There's no substance, and then they just piss off, and then that's it. So
yeah, it's with the lot industries, right? I mean, you end up you have to keep pushing boundaries if you're gonna enter that arena. If you're gonna be that kind of a personality, right, like combative, then you can only ever raise the envelope, right? Like, you can't go back once you've put that out there. You can't just go back and say, oh no, none of that happened. Like, you have to double down. Like, otherwise you don't generate enough of that radical type. You don't get it. And so it's with, you can see it in other content and stuff. Like, you have to continue to push boundaries, and you're going to put yourself in a position where you can't push them anymore. There's nothing left you can do unless you're just fabricating things at that point, and it's going to come back and bite you. And it's just not karmic way. It just doesn't feel right. It feels, like you said, it feels artificial. You're not doing it for the heart of the game or the content. And I mean, I feel like your passion really speaks in that, you know, you're for the game, for the content, you know, and for what you enjoy.
I appreciate that.
You may have already answered this question, but I've done some content creation for some other things, and one of the like biggest things is you do run into those like content creator blues. They're like, none of this matters. And you may have already answered this question saying you just don't worry too much about the results. You just love it. But what do you do to shake it if you do get those like none of this matters blues?
So that is something where, again, it's very easy to say until it actually hits you, because when you have a couple successful videos or things are going well, you feel almost invincible and bulletproof because you feel like you've crossed a threshold. But the way that I kind of envision this industry and this business and being a content creator, a caster, whatever, is you're a survivor in a zombie apocalypse, and they're all out to get you. They're slow moving, but if you ever feel like you're comfortable, that's when you get overwhelmed. That's when they get you, and then you're toast. You have to continuously be on the move and pushing, and it can be very difficult to move on when again you just get the realization, like, okay, what am I doing this effort for? It's a zombie apocalypse and things are kind of garbage right now. And in that case, I've come to terms with it, that I'm not going to be super famous. I'm not going to be popular, and like, I'm not going to get rich doing this stuff. But at the same time, you're right, because your time is valuable. The way that I approach this kinds of things is that I have a friend or two that I am very that I trust very much, that I love very much, that I talk to about these things, that are aware of this industry, of this world, that you can bounce these kinds of things on. It's the same thing with any type of depression, anxiety, things like that. Talk to somebody that you trust, that knows that's not there to solve your problem. They're just there to give you an additional perspective. And the perspective I got many years ago when I was like on my wit's end about this kind of stuff, because when I came from Gwent, I was there as their lead caster for 3 or 4 years. I was their guy. I was there through thick and thin, and I was the same guy there that I am here. But the community just didn't like me, and I was like, that's fine. But like, my streams would have like 25, 30, 40 people. Maybe they'd get up to 100 or 200 eventually. But it was tough because I'm like, why isn't this working? And the conversation I had with somebody whom I love dearly, she's like a sister to me, was that she put it in the perspective that she saw, which was, imagine that those 25 people are in your living room you have all their attention. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people that you speak to, that you influence, that you have a rapport with, that respect you, that love you, that rely on you to perhaps brighten their day. And that really kind of spun things for me, because it turned that number that I was so obsessed with, that viewership number, into people, into personalities, into their own problems. And it's like, maybe they're having the same kind of crisis I am about something else, and they're coming to me for an escape or for some sort of solace. So you have to understand that even though if you put out a video and 30 people watch it or listen to it, that's 30 people. That's 30 lives that have been influenced by your ideas and your passions. And that's how it starts. And that's how you have to envision this thing. Because when you humanize the people that are, spending their time with you, you feel better about the fact that it's not just a number. Like, there's actual impact there.
Great answer.
Yeah, that is well put. That is, I think, 100%. That's a half glass, half full, whatever, glass full type mentality. Yeah. I mean, like, looking at the brighter. No, I mean, it's easy. It's easy to dwell. I mean, it's easy to get lost in that. Then that is a great mentality to have.
Noah, you got another question, or you want us to keep going?
I'll ask him a question. I'll throw one out there. Sure. As someone who, I don't want to do that one. Let's do a fun one. We've been getting real serious. Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, or Disney, and why?
Okay, fun fact. In Canada, we had like none of these. Okay, so
what?
Growing up, we didn't have Cartoon Network. I didn't have Cartoon Network growing up. I didn't have, I saw Nickelodeon when I was like traveling to the States to visit family, and Disney, there was no Disney Channel that we had. So, I mean, we have Disney Plus now and stuff like that, but growing up, none of these. I'm going to hit you with the Canadian one, which is YTV, which is youth television. YTV is the Canadian like kids network, which had all the cartoons, had all the cool stuff. So I'm going to go off the board and say YTV.
What was your thing that you ate that you watched while eating cereal? Like, what was your Saturday morning cereal cartoon?
There was Ninja Turtles, the 90s Spider-Man. That was dude, that was so good. There was I'm gonna go through a whole bunch of classics. Biker Mice from Mars, Street Sharks. Yep. I used to watch like He-Man and She-Ra and
Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe was on, dude. Like the Samurai Pizza Cats. That's a deep cut right there.
Man, I forgot about that cartoon.
Right? Yeah, DuckTales was pretty rad. Darkwing Duck, dude. I
love Darkwing Duck.
Oh my god, DuckTales was like my
Yeah, I love
ringtone
DuckTales.
for a while. God, it was so good. Earthworm Jim, by the way, was one of the best cartoons of that era. That like Garfield and Friends was hilarious too. Like, man, there's so many.
I feel memories triggering that I haven't thought about in literal decades at this point.
See, the important thing is that if you do get into content creation, you have a lot of quote unquote free time where you're just sort of at your computer. And that's when like my YouTube algorithm, as I'm just have YouTube playing, will be like, do you want to, you know, watch or check out the theme song from Samurai Pizza Cats? And I'm like, yes, I do want to. And then that turns into like a loop. And God forbid you find like the hour-long YouTube video of like all the 90s cartoons intro themes, like Cops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Roll Call. Like, oh my God, don't get me started. Yeah.
Oh man, it's good nostalgia. It's you gotta have it. It's where you come from, where you are, type of a thing. It's a good way. It's like looking back and looking ahead at the same time.
I know I had Samurai Pizza Cats toys. I distinctly remember them now.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles and Inspector Gadget. That was my go-to when I was young.
Inspector Gadget was good. Yeah.
All right. Next question. I got one. As someone that is new to content creation and specifically writing, I'd like to know what your journey was like in writing your book, The Stoic, which I'm planning on reading. How did that go from wild idea to actual print? What was that like?
All right. So first things first. F you, Logan and Charmer. I guess for and the other thing is do not spend a dime on it. I'll send you the PDF. So do not spend a dime on that.
I want to read it. Yeah, you send it.
I'll happily dig it out. So ages ago, I wanted to be a comic book writer. I used to do a lot of writing. I used to do a lot of writing fiction, and Spider-Man. I was like, I'm still a big Spider-Man fan. He's, you know, him and Han Solo are my two all-time favorite fictional characters forever and always.
Okay.
I collected a lot of Spider-Man, but I also read a lot of Spider-Man. I was the dude where it's like, you know, when did this character appear? I'm like, you know, Kingpin was Amazing Spider-Man number 50, printed in like 1968 or whatever. Like, I was that guy. I have them all. I have like an Amazing Spider-Man collection that I'm planning on retiring on one day. So that was it. And at the time, maybe 12 years ago or so, I really wanted to get into the business. And I made a lot of connections. I used to go to a lot of conventions. This is like before the conventions were massive. Like, I'm talking about before Iron Man came out. So Iron Man the movie had like just been announced. But so the conventions were small. Like, you didn't have to pay for autographs. You didn't have to pay for photos. None of that stuff. There was like $10 to get in. It was it was rad. So you go, and I would go talk to a lot of artists and writers and just get their ideas and stuff. And I started writing scripts. And ultimately, I got kind of turned off of the industry. I had one really bad interaction with somebody I thought I could trust, and it turned me off completely from that industry for a bit. But I still had ideas for stuff that I wanted to write. So The Stoic essentially was me turning what I wanted to be a comic book series into a short-ish story. It's still like 20 or 30,000 words, but it was a short fiction that I would have preferred if it was in graphic novel format, but I couldn't find an artist and I was also broke, so I couldn't pay an artist. So I was like, I'm just going to write this, and if something happens with it. Lucky for me, that same person that I said is like a sister to me is one of the smartest people I know. She has a doctorate in linguistics and English and stuff like that. So she edited. I would write a chapter, and then she'd proofread and edit it, and then send it back to me. And then I was like, she's like, this is really cool. And then I kept doing it, and eventually I had like 20 something chapters, and I was like, let's figure this out. So I ended up shopping it to a whole bunch of random publishers, and one small tiny, I don't even know if they exist anymore, publisher from the UK really liked it and basically said, we want to publish this and we'll pay you like half of whatever income it makes. I was like, okay, sure. So the thing about it was, I was no fool. So I bought a crap ton of copies myself, getting half of the cost, and then I would sell them to my friends to get all of the cost. That's how you game it, baby. That's how you get around it. So I think I sold like 50 copies of it, and people enjoyed it, but ultimately I just did it to prove to myself that I could do it. But literally like a few years after the fact, I just didn't like it anymore. Like if I could revisit it and redo it, I would want to redo it as my initial idea, which was a graphic novel. But that's a whole other thing for another day.
So that being said, I see it says part 1 on the cover. When I read it, it's going to cliffhang me wanting a part 2, right?
It will cliffhang you, but not in like a greasy way. It kind of is one of those things where it cliffhangs you in the sense of it doesn't give you a will they, won't they kind of situation. It gives you an, oh, there's so much more kind of thing. Okay. So that's the cliffhanger.
Yeah, I don't know if that's any better.
But see, and when part 2 comes out, me and what's his name, George R.R. Martin,
and Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah, him and I have an ongoing feud of who will take longer to publish their next book.
I think he's winning so far.
At least in sales, yes.
Yeah, well, there's that, but I don't know if that book's ever going to come out. I'm waiting on that one. I'm all caught up, but anyway, next question.
Right, so it seems like that you've thoroughly turned content creation into like a joy, but it's also kind of neat if you can have like your hobbies pay for your hobbies a little bit. What are some of the steps you took with like Gwent and Flesh and Blood? You actually did a pretty good job describing of how you turned writing, your one thing that you kind of thought was a hobby, into something. What are some of those steps that you take to turn your hobbies into something that at least kind of cuts you even?
Okay, yeah, the cuts you even is like that's the important part. I'm finally at a point where I'm no longer selling stuff to make ends meet, which that came this year with great sponsors who they pay enough to essentially cover like wherein the rest of it is basically it supplements. It means that I can live and not necessarily lose sleep, because for many years when I went full time in 2018, 2019, I dove in because I was like, I have enough of a cushion and opportunity to survive like 18 months if things don't happen. And then I was lucky enough that my boss at the time told me that I should pursue this, and if it doesn't work out, I can come back and there's no hard feelings.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
It was great. Yeah, it was a great feeling, and it was one of those situations where it was an awkward conversation for me, but when she read the writing on the wall and I said, listen, I have an opportunity, I was offered a contract for X amount of events, I have to try this. And she's like, if you didn't, I would be very upset. She's like, because you're not meant to be here, you're meant to be doing that. And I owe a lot to that boss. She was amazing. She really gave me a lot of great advice, mentorship, and she's one of the best bosses I ever had. And when push came to shove, she's like, yeah, go for it, and we will be here if you need us. And that was a great feeling. But I guess it's kind of one of those situations where if you like, when I started this journey, I think I estimated that I had put in about 2,000 hours of streaming or content creation before I saw my first paycheck. 2,000 hours of streaming, YouTube videos, things like that, before I got my first ever return on investment. So if that doesn't scare you away, then that you might have the passion for this, but that's the reality. So it's crazy, but that's how it goes. I mean, some people will be a lot shorter. Some people might never get to that point. But there's 2,000 hours where I was working my standard, like I was at my desk at work at 9. I got home at like 6:30. I ate, and then from 7 to 10 p.m., Monday to Friday, I was streaming Gwent to establish a viewership. On weekends, I wasn't going out. I was streaming 4 to 6 hours on Saturday, 4 to 6 hours on Sunday, and then I was back at work and making that happen. So I was doing 40 hours at that job, and I was streaming probably close to another 25 to 30 hours during the week. Yeah. So all that's to say, if you're not comfortable with that grind for that return, then it's a dangerous game to get into. You'll burn out. But at the same time, every time that you have that is free can essentially be, there's a way to make it productive. Like if you have an evening and you're like, I have time to jam some games of Talishar, start a stream, fire it up, get that going, because you're going to be playing the game anyways. That's kind of the way that I envisioned it, is like, I'm going to be playing these card games anyways. When I moved from Montreal to Toronto, I didn't know anybody here. My evenings were completely free. My weekends were free because I didn't know anybody. So I was just playing the games anyways. And somebody suggested, dude, like, start streaming. You never know what happens. Plus, it's a good way to actually feel like, you're not alone. And that's the truth. People started trickling into the stream, and then that's where, at the time, CDPR noticed me and said, hey, we want to offer you an audition. And it was all from there. But that wasn't until about 2,000 hours of content creation.
Wow.
I have a similar story that didn't work out. I actually got into a Japanese mobile game and dumped about that much time into it, and then realized that they just don't care about the United States.
That's another reality of it as well, and that was one that I had with Gwent too. The entire reason that I was a blip on their radar was because they didn't have any North American tournaments. So myself and two other close friends of mine, one being Mark Gibson, who basically owns and runs 983 Media. The other one being my buddy Mike Torek, who's one of the best unknown card players I've ever met. We made the tournament. We literally, out of our pocket, created, marketed, and had what we called like the North American Championship. We got, the blessing from CDPR, but our stream for that tournament was like 1,000, 1,500 people. And that's when they're like, and not only that, we put an entire like seven rounds of Swiss plus top 8 in one day, but it's like a best of 5, and the games can last a little while. So I worked from 8 a.m. to 3 a.m. straight.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a long day.
It was a very long day. And that's when they noticed. That's when I got like the call from them essentially saying, hey, dude, we saw you like work, however many hours, 15, 16, 17 hours and not miss a beat. And we, that's awesome. Like, we want to give you a shot. Now that is obviously, I would never recommend it, nor would I ever want to do that again. But we kind of made it ourselves. Like, we wanted to give something to the community, and we figured like, let's make it happen. And that kind of worked that way. But yeah, they didn't care about North America, much like you're talking about. And that is a harsh reality. And that's part of the game, and it's kind of vicious that way.
Mm-hmm.
I actually played a lot of Gwent, and so I'd climb the ladders and stuff. But I mean, outside of going to the tournaments, like you said, there was done in North America. Like I was like, well, what am I really playing for? I mean, I fell in love with that card game. I never even played The Witcher, and my buddy went one time, and I was like, whoa! I was like, this game is sick, and so I played it like up and down. I mean, man, even before Swim, I mean, like man, like I love that card game. And then they did some really dirty things, and they mixed up the rows, and I don't know what they did to that game, but I don't agree with all of it. But I still think it's a very well crafted game, and I loved it, and I loved the way it played, and it felt so rewarding to outplay your opponent.
Yes.
And like last turn, drop the card and say like, nah, dog, like,
yeah,
I just flipped the whole board in my favor.
It's a game that had the lowest variance of any card game at the time. In a world where everybody was playing Hearthstone with, amidst the Discover mechanic release.
Literally randomness.
Yes, creating randomness, random effects. This one was, hey, do you want to play a card game where you're going to reliably see 80 to 90% of your deck all the time? You start the game with 10 cards in your hand. You play 1 card per turn, and the person who knows their deck and your opponent's deck the best is usually going to win. It's one of my top 5 all-time card games that I've ever played. It's like Star Wars CCG, Lord of the Rings, Flesh and Blood. I'd probably say Magic is up there as well, and then it's like Gwent. Mythgard is another one as well. Like these are, it's crazy. The game was incredible, and it's unfortunate how it had such a meteoric rise and then such a disastrous fall.
That makes me think, have you played Marvel Snap? Because it kind of makes me think of Gwent. And where you see almost your entire deck every game.
Yes. So when Marvel Snap was released, I was like, this is just Gwent in like all at once, which is, you see all it basically, instead of 3 rounds, there's 3 lanes, and it's the same thing because there's a finite amount of space that you could put on the Gwent board, and the same thing with Marvel Snap. The thing about it is Marvel Snap is another game of high variance, like it's high RNG related things. So
yeah, there is a lot of RNG.
How do you play around, random creation, random locations just messing you up and things like that? That's the annoying fact about it, and it's the reality.
Gwent
Noah, you got the next one?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just sitting here thinking about I really want to play Gwent now. Oh man, it's the only game where you just like not play a card and punt the round and feel so good about it. You're like, I don't have to play anything here. That's not what my deck does. And it just it was such a great game. All right. With all the other commitments you have in content creation and in life, how do you manage to balance ISP against everything else you've got going on professionally? So like, how do you handle scheduling a guest, you're writing, you're preparing questions, that kind of thing, all by yourself, especially, when you didn't really have like a professional support network when you were starting out?
Yeah, it's hard for me because I always think that it's such a rinky-dink operation until you realize that like some days will go by where I'll be up, at like 8 o'clock. By the time I'm at my desk with a coffee, it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then by the time I'm free, I'm like, oh my God, it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I've been at my desk, for 12 hours, securing guests, tweeting nonsense marketing stuff, making thumbnails, editing videos, just talking with potential sponsors. There's a lot. And now it's a little bit more streamlined, because the hardest part to begin with, which I'm sure, like whenever somebody starts out in content creation, is just it's a lot of trying to convince people that you're worth their time. And I'm lucky enough now that people kind of I'm past that to a degree. I mean, I'm still constantly fighting to prove myself, and I'll never stop that. But I finally sort of have, I suppose, a baked in audience for any project that I do. And I cherish that. And I worked hard to gain that trust from people, and I'll never forsake that because it's important to me. But that also now allows me more time to try other things. For example, Wampa Radio, my Star Wars Unlimited podcast, trying other things that people, want me to try. Writing more is another option. But this is sort of, this is like my calendar. I have it right next to me, and it's all scribbled on and stuff, because if I don't have it in front of me, I won't know. But like, I have, this podcast right here. Tomorrow I've got it all written down, and like when Wampa Radio is, and it's all streamlined, and it becomes a routine. So you can kind of be like, hey, what day is it today? Today's Tuesday. I usually record ISP. Wednesday, I usually record, I usually edit and publish it. Thursday, I usually record Wampa Radio. I do some marketing stuff for all that stuff. I, cut the shorts and do all the special content and stuff like that. It becomes a Monday to Friday in that regard, because on any given day, I know what I have to be doing, and I know when I'm running behind. But at least now, once you get in that rhythm, now it's like, okay, I can, start dating and stuff like that, and like meet people and go out.
I was about to ask about the work-life balance, because we were kind of just talking about work balance.
Well, my previous girlfriend, our relationship, it didn't work out because I was just flat out honest with her, and I said, this has to be my priority, and it is my priority. I'm not, you know, as amazing as she is and whatever, and like it was just we had to call it, because you have to make those sacrifices, and they're not always easy to make, and sometimes they're very easy to make, like quitting my other job. I was like, hell yeah, like the fuck out of here, man. I'll break up with that shit every day. Like, it's no big deal. But that's the beauty of this whole thing, is like you don't feel bad making those sacrifices, because this is what you want to do anyways. Like, if somebody's like, hey, we're all going out for dinner and I still have some stuff I got to do, I don't curse the fact that I have to do these things. I am disappointed that I can't join them, but I'm not like I'm here sulking. I'm like, I'm doing what I want to do. And again, this leads back to what I had mentioned earlier. If that bedrock of your mission isn't passion for what you're doing, you're going to burn out. You're going to regret that you didn't go out to that dinner. You're going to regret that you're not swiping on, you know, Tinder nonstop or whatever. Like, that's kind of where you're at in that case. And I'm happy to say that when I go to all these events, like the Battle Hardens and all this stuff, like, that's my social life. That's my friend life. Like, that's why this game and this community means so much more to me, because when I go to these events and see friends of mine, when I see DM Armada, or I see Brody, or I see, you know, Mara Faris, or I see you guys, or whoever it is, it's like, these are people who I want to see and I want to have conversations with, so I don't feel left out. But, you know, what am I missing? I don't know. And frankly, I don't care, because I'm very happy pursuing this.
That's a great life lesson. As somebody who's had a very free-form life, and I don't have a lot of rigidity and structure, and I really haven't had to, like, you know, be on like the grind, or like been put against a wall kind of a thing. Like, I've had to tell myself that if I want to go and do certain things, like, there are sacrifices, there's building blocks that you have to create. And I think that's what you were alluding to, is that you have to make these initial sacrifices, so that when you've seen the fruit at the end of the tunnel, you know, the fruition, the light, that you are able to now seize those opportunities, because you've done such a good job making this space. And I've told this to other people, you know, sometimes you want to just tunnel vision your goal, but your goal would be much more achievable if you created a very strong foundation, and you've got a place where those opportunities and those doors open, you're now able to seize them, because you're comfortable and you're settled. Like, you've got it all panned out. And so I've had to take a step back and say, like, I need to get serious, and I need to get more, you know, more rigid, and I need to sacrifice. I need to sacrifice time and things I want to do, and put myself in a position where later on, if I want to say I don't want to do anything, it's because I've already created that foundation that allows me to do that.
There were times, honestly, like, where I would wake up every morning hating that I had to go to work, and all I wanted to do is, like, be invited to a dinner, or have something to look forward to. Now, when I wake up, I look forward to getting to the desk and, you know, working on content and being amidst the community. And that's, not everyone has that. And I didn't have it for a long time, you know, and that's the thing. It's a luxury that not many people can afford or will ever get to. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with doing a good job to afford the things that do make you happy. It's just, I make a modest living doing what I love, and I'm very, very thankful that I'm able to do this. But yeah, like, I wake up every morning just let's go. There's no dread in having to sacrifice other elements to continue this journey.
I love that passion. That's awesome.
It's a wonderful community too. I mean, I've never been a part of a card community where I felt there's so much more familial ties. And I've played Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. I mean, I've went whatever, but there hasn't been one where I felt that there has been such a structured and just really, really just strong bonds.
And everyone is so kind. Like, I haven't ran into many communities where someone will just literally hand you $500 worth of cards and be like, I just wanted you to play today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's overwhelming generosity, and so I take it upon myself to always return it to the people of the community, because I mean, I feel like it's one of those things. I love it. I mean, as somebody who does that anytime I can, I really, really enjoy it that other people have no problem self-sacrificing for others just to make sure everybody's having a good time and they're able to play. And it's wonderful. I think this community should continue to grow, and I'm sure it will. I mean, it's It's trending up. So
All right,
I think
next question.
I think we have time
let's-
for one more. So Donnie, you can make a choice. Do you want to make it silly or do you might want to make it serious?
I think we've had enough serious. Let's go with something a little more goofy. Flake, if you had a Wookiee BFF, what would their name be?
See, now this is when I saw this question. I'll give you a super short answer. So if you guys want to ask another one, you can.
Okay.
The correct answer to this is the Wookiee would already have a name. So I don't.
Yeah. Okay. That
There
is
you
that
go.
is fair.
I don't
That is fair.
choose.
That is fair. Thomas, did you have a serious one lined up?
No, that was it. I just I put that question on
That's
there.
a
I wanted to know
great
what the
answer, by the
answer
way.
was, and it's pretty funny.
Okay. I got one. This was one that I actually did want an answer for. Are there any strategies or tips for increasing your online presence and engagement that you used often when you first started and were trying to grow that you don't use as much now that you've reached this stage? Or is the hustle the same from then as it is now?
The hustle is the same for the most part. The difference is that once you sort of cross a threshold where there is some sort of recognition of who you are and what you've achieved, and people, for the most part, like you or whatnot, like that barrier, once you've broken through there, you no longer have to convince people that you're worth listening to. You just have to give them something worth listening to. So it's that case. But like early on, the tips that I would give are fairly, I mean, you could probably use these for anything in life, but the first one is do it with the right intentions. If your intentions are to make money, then go get like a job, like go become a plumber or an electrician. If it's wealth that you want, then this is not for you. If it's fame that you want, you can get it, but do it for the right reasons. Because there's when I started out, the most important thing is that I wanted to create as many positive network links as I could. I wanted to have a good rapport with as many people in the community, and not just the people above me. It's everybody. I never saw it as like, there are people out there who only want to rub shoulders and elbows with those who are like more prominent or famous, quote unquote, as anyone else. And like, that is, you can see that shit a mile away. Like, I know when somebody is talking to me because they just want, to be around me. And I know when people are talking to me because they genuinely want to talk to me. Like, and that's just kind of the way it is. So early on, I wanted to create those networks on a positive basis and not at anyone else's expense, because this is the one thing where everybody wants to talk shit about other people. Everybody wants to get one up and crawl over other people's backs. Don't buy into that. Do not buy into that. Do not promote it. Do not pump its tires. And yes, you will sometimes get dragged into it because maybe what they're saying you agree with, but don't dig yourself a hole, because the people who make the decisions on your fate in any given industry sees all of this. They see it all, and they don't want to be associated with it. So if you lead with a positive edge and have that kind of work hard, yes sir, no sir kind of thing when you're going in, just do your job, get it done, but know your worth. Don't get exploited, and at the same time, don't latch on to other people's fame. Like, I'll say this, and I'll name names because it's because I don't frankly give a shit. But you mentioned the name Swim, right, from Gwent?
Yes, I did.
Do you know what Swim's up to today?
I don't. In fact, I wouldn't tell you that I was extremely overly fond of Mr. Swim.
Sure.
But I mean, he struck me as a very sort of,
He's a very unique person. He's also a gigantic piece of shit. And you're going to have to bleep some stuff out, and I apologize.
No, it's fine. You air it out.
Okay, so when he was popular in Gwent and we were doing this North American tournament, I didn't like him that much. I was like, I don't know him very well, but every interaction I've had with him was a very, very like, I'm better than you, and me talking to you is a favor to you. And I didn't like that because, again, I was a nobody at that time. And, so when we did the North American tournament, we invited him, we paid for his flight, we brought him in. We paid him to do some of the casting, and he showed up late, showed up in a bathrobe and slippers to do his work, like, and was disgusting. Like, he was just frankly disgusting. He was creepy. And I did not want to work with him. And I confronted him and said, dude, we're paying you. Could you at least give a shit? And he's like, oh, no, the chat will think it's funny. No, they won't. I don't care. I am paying. And like, that was the kind of thing, because he was all memes and whatever. And like, there are people who like that shit. But again, I had done 2 events with him, and I was like, I am very much not a fan of this person. He's a kind of a creep show. So fast forward several years, and I did not do anything with this person. I refused to do any collaborations with this person, despite many people saying I should, because I was trying to establish myself in that industry. And I said, I'm like, no, I'm doing this the right way. I'm not going to latch on to creep shows because they have, 2,000 viewers on Twitch. I do not care. I don't want to be in his good books, and I'll take the harder, longer route, which I did. You know where Swim is now? Swim is off of internet and all anything because he got outed by many people as being a like sexual abusing creep show awful human being.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, exactly.
Yeah, and you don't.
And
You could have messed up your brand.
Well, but I saw it, and I warned people about it. I said, and whenever his name came up, I said, I don't like that guy. He's creepy, and I don't want anything to do with him. And they're like, oh, give him a chance. He's quirky. He's this. I'm like, nope, not interested. And when all this stuff came to light, they asked me to write something about my experiences with him. And I, for the first like week or so, or 2 or 3 days, I refused. I said, this is not about me. It's about the people that he harmed. It's about the victims that his like ex-girlfriends and people like that. He's a disgusting freaking urchin, this guy. And I have nothing, and I'm saying this as, and you guys know me, I try to be as positive as I possibly can. So when I think somebody is a scumbag, then they're probably a pretty big scumbag. But I just said no. And eventually they said, listen, we really want a male perspective to add to, like the credibility of these women who are coming out to say, with all the receipts and everything and all the chat logs of whatever, and of how awful this person is. So I did, and I wrote, a couple pages about my experiences and why I didn't like them. And like, it wasn't like a victory for me to pile on this loser, but at the same time, it was at least vindication for trusting myself and taking the harder route of not, because I had opportunities to be like on his Gwent team and all this other stuff, and a lot of people latched onto him and tried to leech off of his fame, and he would raid them after his stream so they would get and I'm like, not interested, don't want anything. I'm happy with my 70 or 80 viewers at the time. I don't need his help. And again, vindication for that thing, because people came back to me and said, you were right. And it's not about an I told you so. It's more of a, pat myself on the back for sticking to my guns and doing it the right way and associating with good people. And that was it. And I never went on tirades to bury the dude, because I just told people what my experience was with him. But the dude is a absolute grade A wholesale organic piece of ass, and I'm so glad that he's out of the industry.
Well, that was a very memeful Twitch chat. I mean, that is literally, when I watched this, and I could not watch it for very long, like that is the whole image that he sold me. And so I am not at all surprised that you had that type of like initial reaction with him. He seems like a very lackadaisical, sort of egotistical, very self-centered, and it's like, oh no, it's it's all for the laughs kind of thing. Because if it's funny to him, it's got to be funny to everybody.
Sometimes you are the character you present, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I come from somewhere.
And I didn't mean to like take it down that rabbit hole, but
no, it's fine.
The whole,
get it off your chest, man. It's all good.
Well, yeah, it's like the whole thing is that this all comes back to the fact that if you stick to your to your morals and whatnot, it does pay off. Like there is return on that. To do things the right way. It takes longer, and you might miss out on some flash in the pan style opportunities. Because I didn't get rated by him because I didn't talk to him and I didn't care enough, and I didn't get, nor did I pander to his personality. I was like, you should not say these things. You should act professional when you're being paid to do a job. Like I was and as a result, it did my reputation suffer. Maybe, I don't know, but look where I am now, and I don't I don't care. Like that's the thing.
As you said before, you wouldn't really change anything about how you got to where you are now.
Bingo.
Right.
There you go.
No, it's a great experience. I think keeping true to yourself. I mean, that's got to be step one. And if you're not happy with who you are, if you feel like you've got to change or like, pander or whatever, become something else, like then it's not real. It's artificial. I mean, like, I think that's kudos. It speaks more about you, obviously, than what, it shows about Swim. I mean, he showed his true colors anyway, but that you stood your ground and that you took it the way that you wanted to do it. That's an individualistic thing. Like that's you.
I appreciate that.
That's wonderful. And thank you for sharing that. Because again, like I was never like major big, Gwent top, but like, I mean, I would watch all the top streamers and, he always rubbed me as like just one of those, like, for the laughs kind of a guy. But like I never thought it would get that deep and dark, but like some people, like we talked about it earlier in the episode, right? When you start making those jokes, you become that personality. Where do you go? You got to keep pushing the envelope.
Well,
yeah.
You have your evening Googling to do. And it's not going to take long. Just punch in his name and
I'll go Google around.
And controversy or allegations, and you'll see.
Man.
Cha. Yeah.
Well, thank you so
That'll
much
be a fun rabbit hole
for coming onto
Absolutely.
the podcast with us, Flake. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
I just want to say, and again, because it's so important, and what you guys are doing and what you guys contribute to the community, it's felt and it's important. And even though sometimes it gets hard and whatnot, I just want you guys to realize that there are people, many people, who appreciate what you guys do and what you bring, and to keep doing it. And I want to thank you for what you guys do for the community, because it's very important.
Dang, man, it's just like something we ought to be saying to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
This community is
that means a lot coming from you, dude. Thank you.
Before we completely wrap this up, like, is there anything you want to plug before you go?
Sure. So the Instant Speed podcast is every Thursday on YouTube, on all the different audio platforms. Might as well throw it out here as well. I also have another podcast that I do with Charmer and Doa. It's a Star Wars card game podcast called Wampa Radio. Also on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at WatchFlake. I don't really stream anymore. I don't have any interest in it. It really robbed my soul for those many years that I did it. But
not a lot of time either.
Yeah, there's not much time to do it. But I know that, for example, it's PQ season, so I'm probably going to be jamming a lot of games in Talishar. And like I said before, if you're going to do it, then might as well
I'll come watch.
Hell yeah. So that's it. I invite everybody to come on by. I appreciate it.
All right, and I'm at Wet the System Fab, or if I do choose to stream on Twitch, I'll be Wet the System as well.
For me, it's same stuff, different week. Draco Hominis 87 on just about all the social medias. You can find me as Donnie K on fabric.gg. I write several different article series there. The recent one that just came out was the coverage review for the Calling Dallas. The next one that's coming out, I'll be doing a write-up on Calling Melbourne. Want to make sure that we don't leave out any of the people across the pond. They deserve to be highlighted in their events as well. So I actually had the option of running one of my other articles, the Fab Dad or Ultimate Pit Fight or one of the other ones. But I want to make sure that we're highlighting everybody that deserves to be highlighted. So look forward to that. Should be coming out maybe not this Friday, next Friday. It should be next Friday that the next one will hit. But
you can find
fabric.gg.
I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
At Big Max Fab on Twitter, on Twitch TV/LeadSoHeavy. For now, it will change to Big Max down the road, but that's about it.
Thanks again, Flake, so much.
Hey, it's, again, like I said, it's my privilege and my pleasure. So thank you for having me.
All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. We hope you enjoyed catching up with us this week. And if you did, we need your help. The best way you'll help us out is to leave a like and a comment. It really makes a huge difference to new channels like ours when you engage with what you see. If you don't want to miss out on future casts, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube so you know exactly when to find us next time. Until then, take care of yourself and remember, we are all siblings in cardboard.
Good night, everybody.
Take care, everybody.